It's August 2nd, 2013, and yesterday we had a nice little walk around the backside of Lagoon. There's a free trail you can go on, Farmington Creek Trail, very nice. We found some nice blackberries back there, and Mr. Beebe tried those and enjoyed them. Anyway, I know that sex and porn and so-called sex addiction has been in the news recently, and it reminded me of the lady two people, Joycelyn Elders, who made some interesting statements on masturbation that got her fired. But anyway, I'll post links to those statements. And then back when I was a single guy, well, you have to understand the history a little bit. There was this book that they gave to me when I was pretty young, just, like 12 or something, called Miracle of Forgiveness by Spencer Kimball. And it's basically a tirade against sexuality in general, about the fact that we are sexual, and oh, wouldn't it be great if you weren't sexual, and if you are sexual and you express that in any way, except in the most limited and anally retentive sense, then you're committing sins equivalent to murder. So that's kind of the background, right? So then after I left Mormonism, I came across this lady whose name is Betty Dodson. And I initially came across some of her art while browsing through a library article. But later I found out she had written some books. The first book I found was called Sex for One, The Joy of Self-Loving. And then she wrote a later book called Orgasms for Two. But anyway, the Sex for One book seemed like kind of an antidote to what Spencer Kimball, the evil bullshit that Spencer Kimball was spouting in his book, right? So I attempted to donate this book to a few libraries. So the Salt Lake City Library gladly accepted the book. The previous director sent me a very nice letter in response to receiving it. I think it was Nancy Tessman. Very nice lady. And but there's one library that wouldn't accept it, was the Murray City Library. And I had some conversations with the director of the library, whose last name is Barr, and I basically told him, well, you're being inappropriately provincial. And he was happy about that accusation. He said, yeah, we are provincial. We're happy about that. And the basic response of the Murray City Library to the reception of this book, advocating for masturbation as opposed to against masturbation. Of course, they most likely did have a copy of Spencer Kimball's bullshit book, Miracle of Forgiveness, but they refused to have the response type book by Betty Dodson. So, and the library board responded and said, we get to decide what books are on our shelves. And they forwarded the book to the University of Utah Library, the Marriott Library. And they thought, oh, this type of book is appropriate for being in a university, but we can't handle having it in our library. So, and if you go on worldcat.org. That's worldcat.org. That service used to run by the OCLC used to have to pay money to use that, but basically now it's free. You can search to see what libraries own a certain book, and if you search on the book Sex for One, you'll find that it's at many just regular old libraries, but the Murray Library is apparently, and the Murray City Council is apparently headed up by a bunch of fucking brainwashed Mormons. And so, of course, they want to censor a book being present in their city library that might advocate for masturbation, something which Mormonism thinks is evil. Okay? So, that's why theocracy is alive and well in Utah, okay? When brainwashed anally retentive assholes get into government, get into power, they think that they need to enforce their little bullshit evil Mormon rules impose it on everyone else, because they think they know best. And I suppose a lot of people think they know best, but in the case of Mormons, they don't know best, because the stuff they believe with regard to sexuality is just plain abusive and evil. So anyway, they refused to accept the book, and they forwarded it and they sent me a patronizing, smarmy, anally retentive, I am an asshole type of reply. And by asshole, I mean they were the assholes. And it even got to a point where, after I complained about this to them, then they had the city attorney send me a letter to try to threaten me from even complaining. And his basic response was, well, the library board gets to decide what's going to be at the library. And that's just all there is to it. And I sent the guy a letter back and said, well, basically, your letter to me is, trying to abridge my freedom of speech. It just so happens that the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution states that you get a right to your government about grievances you have. And they can't say no to that. If it's just, like a letter that says, okay, here's my opinion, and you're doing something wrong, and you're stupid. I want you to do something different. That's basically what my letters were. You're being abusive and evil and theocratic, in a slightly nicer tone of voice. So, anyway, but thank goodness for the internet, where even in Murray, Utah, you can browse the internet, and you can look up Joycelyn Elders, and you can look up Betty Dodson, and see what these women said about masturbation. And another key woman that I found, as I was leaving Mormonism, as far as sex books go, is Shere Hite. I think it's Shere, S-H-E-R-E and H-I-T-E. She wrote the Hite Report books on male sexuality and on female sexuality. They were kind of revolutionary books, where in the past women had this taboo about just speaking anything about what their sexual feelings were, and maybe men did too to some extent. So she wrote these two key books. So Betty Dodson and Shere Hite. And thank goodness for the internet, because the brainwashed, anally retentive asshole Mormons in government and out can't engage in thought control quite so much. So whether the Murray Library wants to ban books and virtually burn them matters a little bit less now, thankfully. And Betty Dodson's book, Sex for One, is very light compared to what you can find on Google. Oh my goodness. They thought that book was against Spencer Kimball. There's all sorts of stuff on there that, is a lot more than just a very light book with some pencil drawings of penises. You know, Betty Dodson's book, oh my goodness, a pencil drawing of a penis, ooh, a big problem. But, yeah, you can find a lot more just on Google image search, huh? Anyway, okay, so that's that. Have fun. The sun's coming up, as you can see. Hi, sun. Good mornings. Good day, sunshine. Do-do-do-do. Anyway.